Hello, everyone, and welcome to Re-Engineering Your Classroom Instruction. And this topic I love to talk about. What we're talking about is taking something from a lower depth of knowledge, like recall, and transforming, re-engineering your classroom, that activity to be a higher level on that depth of knowledge scale. So, getting the students to create and to kind of think critically about different things rather than just recalling math facts or recalling something. But I do want you to know that students do need all levels of that DOK knowledge depth. So they need recall, but they also need to have those higher ends as well. So just keep that in mind as we are going through these slides. But a lot of times I walk in and I find teachers, or as I'm talking to teachers, we stay at that recall level, especially when I was teaching or when I was in the classroom as a student. And so, again, we're going to try to stay in all those different levels, but we're going to really kind of talk about like that recall level, level one, and then that extended thinking level four. And then the level two is skills and concepts, and level three is strategic thinking. But again, we're going to be kind of looking at all of those different levels and how we can start to re engineer and change classroom instruction to better meet our students. So if you have not yet, please join the Google group. With the Google group, you're going to be able to access the presentation and all of the resources inside of it. So right now I'm going to throw that link into the chat. So that way you are able to join that Google group and you're able to see all of the different resources that are available to you. And there are a great number of people involved with this Google group and always sharing. So it's a great collaborative group. And I would love for you to join if you are not a part of it yet. Okay, so the first activity we're going to talk about is vocabulary. So with vocabulary, again, when I was teaching, I just use flashcards. We made flashcards on, the smaller cards, and one side had the word, and then on the back of it, it had the definition. Very recall type of activity where students were just staying at that recall area and not doing a whole lot of extension or evaluation with those words. And so what kind of happened is I created a grid to help my teachers. And so on this grid, you'll find a video to help for more information if you just want to go back to this resource. And then down here in the speaker notes are the description. I like to put all of those resources that you're able to access. Again, if you're not a part of that Google group, you really need to. So that way you can access all of the resources available to you. And one more time, I'm going to throw the slides back in the chat just so you are able to find all of these helpful resources as well. Okay, so with this digital library, what I did is I took Bloom's taxonomy. So Bloom's and depth of knowledge kind of go hand in hand, where again, it all starts at that recall level, but then it grows by evaluating and creating. So that is the goal, is again to kind of have students all over when we're talking about these different resources. So for this particular resource, what students do is at that recall level, they might just do a quick Quizlet where they are just practicing those vocabulary words. It's becoming familiar to them. But then what they might do the next day is they might start to work on a Frere model. So having like a Frere model where students are able to have different boxes and they're going to put the definition, maybe an example, maybe a non-example. Students are able to come in here and again, they're able to connect those different words and understand them in a different way by using that Frere model. After that, they might start to apply it. And some teachers might do this where they do this on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then maybe like a review for next week. So that's one way you could use this, or you could kind of double up on some of these. And I'll talk about another way after I go through all of these activities that I've seen teachers use this as well. So right here with applying, students are going to use as many words from that week in a 2-minute conversation. So now they're applying that word, that vocabulary as much as they can in that 2-minute conversation. And then another activity you can do is 3 truths and 1 lie. So this resource has a bunch of different templates in it. You can see here, they have to use as many words from the word wall, and they have a topic of shopping. Where here, that 3 truths and a lie, they have their word, they write a truth, and then they write a lie about it. They might reorder this, and then the students have to try to figure out which one is the lie from those choices. So again, can just kind of take that learning deeper than just a quick Quizlet review activity. Students might also take the words and they're going to compare and contrast their definitions. So they're going to be looking more and evaluating and kind of comparing and contrasting, like this has a similar definition, this one does not. And really taking that word apart in that definition. And then finally, the create. Students might use like a meme it generator where they're able to take memes from around the board. And once they have those memes, they're able to create funny or things that relate to the vocabulary word about the text. So just a fun, again, activity to get students thinking outside the box when it comes to using vocabulary. And I also like to give students choice. So rather than just having that meme generator, they might also have a choice of where they can create a comic book. So where students might be able to take this and they have to create like a comic of those different words and put them in a system. So that works as well too. So again, students are able to go in and then they can kind of go through those different comic books as well. Okay, so again, there's another way that you can do this. Again, you could take this and do a one every single day for the week, or you can use Fast and Curious. So Fast and Curious is an edu protocol. It does kind of stay at that recall level, but it is a great activity because it works on the learning science and like retrieval practices. So what students will do is on Monday, they will take a vocabulary test and they're going to get a score. So let's say on Monday, they get like 10% because they just saw the words. On Tuesday, they do the activity again and they're up to maybe 35%. On Wednesday, they do the activity again and now they're at like a 60%. On Wednesday, what I might have the students do is pick one of these activities from this board or assign an activity from this board. And they're going to practice the words that they miss. So again, they're going to take those words that they missed and they're going to practice them. Now on Monday, I could do the same activity where they're just taking the words that they missed. On Tuesday, same thing. On Wednesday. But again, midweek, I like to kind of take that practice and extend it. Where on Thursday, they could go up to 85%. And on Friday, they should be in the 90s. So students are quickly seeing their progress on this activity by kind of keeping track of their scores. And again, you can use the ones that they missed for extended review on these different activities. And this resource, this resource has so many different activities built in that we can just kind of build out. And then on this last slide, and if you have any resources, let me know so I can add them. We are trying to add to our bank. So here are some recall activities. Here's some understanding. Here's some applying, evaluating, creating, analyzing. And then you as the teacher are able to come in here and create your own activities for students to learn vocabulary throughout the week. So again, if you have resources, please send them my way. Would love to add them to this resource bank because we are better together. All right, so that's vocabulary. The next thing is after a unit. So again, before I would often give just a test. And after just giving a test, I kind of started to think, well, maybe I could do a choice board with projects. And so with that, students are able to take their activities, their video, and they are able to create a choice board. And with their choice board, they are able to then create some type of product explaining that question. So on here, what we've kind of done is students can use Flipgrid, Canva, or Google Slides for their final product. Now you could totally change those topics to whatever you wanted. And then right here, this is focused on character. So they will pick one of these questions to be answering in their Flipgrid, Canva, or Google slide, plot, and so on. So again, just kind of creating maybe a theme choice board. And based on that, students have to create, using one of these choices, what they have learned about that book or that chapter or whatever you're working on. And you can change this again for any subject, but having a choice board rather than just a test can really start to up that DOK level when we're working with different students. And then the reflection. So before, it was just a quick thumbs up, thumbs down, and that was about it. Students would just kind of quickly let me know, how's it going? And it was just a quick thumbs up, thumbs down activity. After I started to kind of reevaluate this, this is an end of the week reflection. And there's a video here. There's also another video that I just created if you are interested in using AutoCAD. So if you go to the Gold EDU YouTube page, you can search right here and you can type reflection. And you can see there's a couple different ones. This one is with the autocorrect. So again, if you search using this search bar, you're searching in the gold area. If you search up here, you're searching in the YouTube area. So you want to search here and then type reflection. And again, here are 3 different kind of templates that you're able to use for this activity. What students do is you will assign this to your learning management system. Every student will get a copy. And students will come in here. They're going to take this little tape and they're going to let you know, hey, this week I was on pace. My favorite thing, I was a hero. Skills I gained. Something I changed for next week. And then they can kind of show how their week went. Students can also type their main reason for that rating. Feel free to customize this as well. But what students do is they fill this out every Friday. Some teachers do it at the beginning of the week. Some teachers do it after a unit. So again, totally customized for what you need in your classroom. After students fill this out, they then share it with their parents. So you can have a kind of a running record of this where students will copy this and then they can keep typing on this document. But with this, students are able to really dive in deep and start to reflect more than just that thumbs up, thumbs down activity. Students are really starting to reflect. And I've had some feedback that teachers want to see everybody's results in one Google Sheet. And so if that is what you're looking for, this video right here walks through using AutoCAD. But again, all of your students' responses will come in a Google Sheet. You can filter, you can search, and you're able to kind of keep track as well. But I just love the fact that now my newsletters are personalized for every single student. Students send this to their parents, and now every single parent has a different newsletter based on that student and that reflection. And I can still send out those generic, but really the data is coming from my students on how their week went and where they're at in the lesson. Next thing is grading. Before, I would just grade a paper. And then after, I started to use error analysis. Error analysis has completely changed the way that I give out grades. Again, a lot of the time it was just me, and I would get really frustrated about like, why does this kid not care that, or they're looking at my feedback. And so what I did is I created this error analysis with Katie James. And Katie James uses this all the time, and she is an amazing teacher. She teaches 6th grade. And so there's 2 different ways you can kind of see here. Down in the speaker notes, there's a Google form, but there's also this Google slide. And of course, there's a video to walk you through this activity if you need more details. So what students will do is they are going to first take a screenshot of their work. You can also have the students do this on a piece of paper and with pen. And they circle everything that they miss. So if they're doing it on a computer, they can circle over here everything that they miss. This is per question. So they need to duplicate this if it's for multiple questions. So again, students are taking their piece of paper, they're circling, they're drawing arrows, they're showing everything that they might have missed on their paper. Once they do that, on step 2, they're just explaining their error. What did they do wrong and how are they going to correct it? Then they resolve the problem and they answer it correctly. And that is my note to like see if they really understand their mistakes. If a student is struggling, I'm able to conference with them and kind of work through this process together. But this has really changed her instruction in her classroom. At the beginning of the year, you might have more students filling out this error analysis, but as they get better and realize, they start to do really well that first round because they're more focused and more engaged because they don't want to really fill out this error analysis. But again, it's better than me just circling, telling them what they did wrong. Now I just circle the question and they have to figure out where they made a mistake or how they answered that question incorrectly. The next thing is video. Before, I would just have my students watch a video. They wouldn't pause it, they wouldn't take notes, they would just watch a video. And after, I now use SnapThought. So SnapThought is a really fun activity where students will take a screenshot from their video and then they list ideas and details and examples to support that SnapThought. So again, this is kind of taking it to that strategic thinking, and students are now thinking about why does this happen or what does this mean? And they're just able to write more notes. So again, they're able to take a screenshot and then they're able to list out different ideas and examples about that SnapThought that they just encountered. So funner or better activity than just watching that video, where now students are pausing the video, taking that screenshot, writing notes, unpausing, sometimes even going back to really relearn that material, rather than just sitting there kind of listening to a video. Before I started a unit, I would just put my objectives on the wall and not really engage my learners with them. So again, I would just kind of have my objectives up there on the wall for my students to see, and that was about it. After, I started to create this 3 whys activity. So again, YouTube video, but then down in the speaker notes, you're able to find the Google slide for it. So right here is that 3 whys. Why does this topic matter to me? And I ask my students this, and I might throw it in a pear deck, or I might put this on the learning management system for every student to fill out. So I ask them, why does that matter to me? And we talk about different reasons of why that might matter to my students. Why might it matter to people around me, their family, their friends? Why does it matter to maybe somebody in the community that owns a bakery? And then we talk about why it might matter to the world and kind of getting that global perspective. So great activity to engage your learner rather than just posting those objectives right on the board for students to see. And then cooperative learning. What I did before is I thought cooperative learning was just like students sharing supplies, or students had a slide deck that they had like the same product. They collaborated on the product, but they didn't collaborate on the process. So what that means is I had maybe a student that would collaborate on slide 5 or work on slide 5 and a student that worked on slide 7. They finished their slide deck, but there was no communication or collaboration to get to that final product. They each kind of took that and just kind of learned that way. And that is low level collaboration, like not having the talking and the collaborating together. And so what I started to do is TCA had a great blog post about 10 top collaboration ideas. And so in this slide deck, I kind of took their resources and created visuals for all of their 10 ideas, because there's some really great instructional strategies in here. So one that I might do is 4 corners, where students have a question and they have to go to their corner. Maybe they talk with their group first and then they would answer aloud. Another thing is maybe there's experts, where students are kind of jigsawing out their different topics and they're working together to research and discuss with their group. After they discuss with their group, they then go share with another group. Here they might do like a quiz and find, where they have a question on their piece of paper and then they go and find somebody else to have an answer to it. Here they have showdown, where they might be asked a question and then students will answer on a whiteboard, and when they hear showdown, all boards are shown. So again, just some fun activities that you could do in your classroom to up that cooperation. Because again, like me, I thought having students working on slide 5 and a student working on slide 7 was cooperative learning, because they were creating a collaborative product, but they were not working together on that product. And so I wanted to take this deeper with my students, because collaboration is such a huge skill that they're going to need when they get into the work field or just in life in general. And then notes. Before, my students would just copy my notes from my slide deck or my board. And it was just very, again, low level type of activity. They were just copying exactly what I said, no rewording anything. And afterwards, I started to use sketch notes. So sketch notes can be a great way for students to take their information and draw, write keywords, or even quick jots about what they're learning in their sketch notes. So again, it took that low level activity of them just copying it down and really starting to transform my instruction by some of these different activities that I was able to have with my students when it came to sketchnoting. And I do like to create like sketchnote templates, or some people call these like doodle notes. But again, I like to take these sketchnote templates so that students have boxes, and then they just need to draw like the 3 ideas or the 4 ideas, the 5 ideas that they learned from the video. That can sometimes help as a scaffold or resource for my students when I am just kind of going over this. So like right here, the students are going to watch a video. And then once they watch that video, they can type in these little boxes what they're learning, or as they're exploring maybe that website. Here's another one with TED Talks. Here's another with somebody wanted but so then paragraph type of work. But again, it just made it so that my students had like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 note sheet, and then they just filled in the blanks to kind of cover a gist of what they're learning. So taking that learning again deeper than just that copying from the board. And then retrieval. So retrieval before was me telling the students what we recapped from the previous day. And I was doing a lot of the retrieval practice. Where after I started to use this retrieval wheel. And what happens is, again, down in the speaker notes, you'll find the resources to the slide presentation. And what students do is they're in teams. So again, that collaborative learning is coming again to play. And with their teams, they are now spinning the wheel. They're going to have a topic that will be chosen, and then they're going to recite as much information as they can about a topic. I like to use Wheel of Names. So when it comes to Wheel of Names, I will add all of my different topics onto this wheel. My students or I will spin the wheel. And once I spin the wheel, this is the topic, whatever is chosen, is what my students have to work with their group and talk about. And so then what happens is students will then work with their group, write down on a piece of paper as much information about that topic that they remember. And then whoever has the most correct information wins that round. And I usually set about a 2 to 5 minute timer, just kind of depends on how much time we have. But students really enjoy this way. And sometimes it's just, okay, what did we talk about yesterday? And they write down everything that we talked about yesterday, or what have we learned so far in this unit? And it's a week-long activity. So you're able to customize this activity as well. And then textual evidence. So before, my students were just highlighting information in the text. But then after, I started to use these CER evidence cards. And with these CER evidence cards, what happens is students have this printed, or they have it in their Google Space. And on this card, they take a screenshot or they find an image from the web. So if they're reading an article, they could use images from that article. Or if they're reading a book, they could find maybe something that kind of relates to what they're reading. They write their topic, and then they type about what they're kind of learning here. I've also seen teachers where students will cut these out. So they're like movable cards if they wanted to. But again, they're just kind of writing that topic and then their notes. Once they have their evidence card right here, they're able then to provide their reasoning. So again, I've seen teachers where students will copy and paste, or I've seen teachers where they will glue their little card here, and then they provide their reasoning here. And students, instead of finding a photo, they might draw the photo on their own. But they have their little evidence on these little cards as they're researching, and then they're able to provide that reasoning to support their claim. So just, again, a great activity to move it from just highlighting their evidence to now where they're really starting to justify all of their different reasonings. And then the next one is writing. So again, I would just grade their writing assignment, where after I started to use this revision menu. And I found this revision menu first on Twitter, and I just kind of recreated it for my classroom to make it fit with my students and my staff. And what happens is students can then kind of choose what they want to focus on to revise their writing. Do they want to fix their verbs? Do they want to fix their mic drop sentence? Do they want to tune up their transitions? And students are able to use this menu to kind of up their writing if we are in that writing process of editing. So again, rather than me just grading, they're able to go in and really revise that work. And then task cards. So again, before I just had my students solve them. I would put them up around the room. They would add movement. They would move around the room and kind of use a clipboard and write their answers. Well, then after I started to learn about different ways that I could use task cards in my classroom. So again, there's a video that walks you through more detail, but then right here with the task cards, there's 5 different activities that you can kind of use to up the level of DOK. So this first one is silent debate. So students will maybe answer on butcher paper, and rather again than them just answering on their piece of paper, they're now writing publicly and they're answering around the room. And then they also are signing their name and responding to 2 other classmates. So now you're kind of adding a discussion piece into the task cards. So then students can kind of see what other students wrote about their answer or about their ideas. Pass it back. This is a good one where you might have like a group of 4 to 5 students. And what students will do is they have a task card. So the task card might be right here, and this might be on a clipboard. And right here, the students will answer the task card here. Student 2 will answer, and they might add a note to student 1. Student 3 will answer, but they will also add a comment to 1 and 2. Student 4 answers, but they will add a comment to 1, 2, and 3. And then student 5 answers, they're adding a comment to 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you're able to kind of see those different responses coming to life. So every time I might set like a timer for 2 minutes, and then I might add 3, adding an extra minute so that way they can comment onto the task card. So that's one way you could use this, or you could do something completely different if you wanted to. Another thing is getting artistic. So students can take those task cards and they can visually draw their answers to that, and they might work with a group of 3 to 4 students. Another way is you might use it in a Socratic seminar where students are answering those task cards through a discussion, and they're making different connections, comments, and they're challenging and critical thinking is what they're working on. Another activity is Clue. So Clue is a game that has been created, and we use this for a lot of different task cards. And what students do is they usually work in a pair. And there's a Google form, and they cross off who did it. So you gamify the task cards, and by the end, if they solved all the task cards correctly, they kind of solved the Clue game. Which this is a longer video that kind of walks through how to set that up because it is a process, but it's a really fun activity for students to do and work together, and they're able to solve these different clues to try to figure out who did it. So check out that video if you're interested in gamifying your clue game. And then bell questions. So again, before I might just have students that would just solve a few questions before we got started. Very low level type of recall type spiral review questions, and spiral review is great. But then I started to use the answer is, and I would tell the students like the answer is this, or the text evidence is this, or the claim is this. And then what they would do is they would take Post-it notes and they would answer that question or create a question for it, or provide other claims or something like that, justification for that claim. So again, students got really strong and loved working on these. And then we would have a class discussion about everybody's Post-it note. So we were able to dive that conversation in deeper and get students thinking outside the box as well. Metacognition. So now we're kind of looking at executive functioning skills. So before this, we were looking at kind of instructional strategies or different parts of a lesson that we were able to up. But now I want you to think about executive functioning skills. So before, again, I would list my objectives on the wall, just kind of like I did for the 3 whys activity, right? But now you can really add a wonder wall into that learning. And so with a wonder wall, what students are able to do is they are able to come in here and they have 3 questions from John Hattie. What are we learning? Why are we learning it? And when will you know that you've learned it? Students will come in and fill out these 3 boxes. And after they fill out those 3 boxes, they're going to be then asked, how are we going to be learning it? And their whole week will be example, like written out here. So if we're working on justification and writing, what are we learning? We're working on writing. Why are we learning it? Because you need to be able to write and provide justification for why you might believe something. And when we know that we've learned it is by the end of that writing activity. So on Monday, they're going to maybe work on brainstorming. Tuesday, they're going to work on their body. Wednesday, they're going to work on their or introduction. Wednesday, their body. Thursday, their conclusion and editing. And then Friday, we might edit real quick, but we're also going to do a gallery walk or some type of activity where we're doing like a peer review. So again, I'm able to take those 3 questions and students will be able to really focus in and they're being chunked on those activities as well to taking that whole writing process to where now they have a focus for each day to get that assignment done. Organization. Before, we just told students, put it in the purple folder. And did they do it? Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. Well, now we have a digital organization. And so with that, I've created like an OK Google Organize My Life for students. They watch first how these different tips and tricks to organize their digital space. And then they choose 3 different activities on this tic-tac-toe board, and they complete those to organize their life. And then they prove their organization and evidence on slides 3 through 5, and I can kind of check in with them. So again, teaching students different tips and tricks for organization can really help. And then just keeping reviewing and having different peer reviews can make it even stronger as well. And then goal-directed persistence. So Emma, she made this template for New Year. And again, I love it. I love setting up goals for the year where students might have, let's see here, might have different blocks in their 2022 reflecting that school year. But what I've really started to enjoy is using some type of tracking to help my students. So right here is a tracking Google Sheet. And what students do is they're able to come in here and they can change their little drop down to finish their working. And I'm able to track their progress. I can also set like a today's goal where your goal today is to get to 1B. And so every student needs to try to get to 1B. It's okay if you're ahead of pace, but if you're behind pace, you really need to pick up that speed. So again, goal setting has been fun and I love to use these quick Google like slides or paper versions of just, hey, let's reflect or let's think about what we want to accomplish this year. But I really feel like the tracker has kind of upped it because now we're seeing and we're putting it in action. And again, I like to sometimes put in here, like our goal today is to get to here, or our goal today is to get to here. And then I can kind of track students' progress. I'm able to check in with students as I see fit. Another activity is planning and prioritizing. So before I would say, hey, your assignment is due on Friday. And that was about it. And students had to work hard to try to get that done on Friday. Now I like to use roadmaps. So with roadmaps, this design came from Amanda Sandoval and then also from Modern Classrooms. They use a lot of game board / roadmaps. But you can just kind of see here that I'm able to take a writing assignment and I can break it up into multiple little chunks. Pair this with that tracker and you are able to see how students are progressing in this self-paced environment. So again, students will go through, they complete an activity, they can even have an individual tracker with all of these different shapes and they can move that little shape around their board. So great activity for planning and prioritizing rather than just saying, hey, this is due Friday. I'm able to help students chunk up that bigger assignment so that way they feel more success when they're completing it. And again, that working memory, we talked about fast and curious, but with flashcards again, I again used a lot of recall, but now I'm able to really focus in on that retrieval practice with fast and curious. And you can kind of see this template right here for students that are able to complete if you want to use this. I like to track as a whole class. And then I also assign this to every student so they can track individually. So we have a class average that we track together, and then they track their scores individually to see their individual progress as well. Okay, so now that we've kind of seen a couple different ideas and example, now it's your turn. I want to know what did you maybe used to do and what do you plan to do to start to up that level? So I'm going to put in here make and take, and I'm going to add the slide deck. And again, I want you to provide some ideas on how you plan to up that level of DOK on your different activities. So I'm going to walk through one more activity that I kind of thought of or that has helped me. But again, you can kind of see here, here's my vocabulary example. You're going to add a picture, add the resource, hyperlink it if you have something, and then add your name in the speaker notes so we know who created this strategy. So on slide 3, I'm going to duplicate this slide. And then I'm going to show you kind of what I had, what I've done before and what I've done after. Once it loads. So I just saw this idea, and feel free to reuse ideas, and I kind of redesigned it to fit my needs. But I just really liked it. So before, when I was working on personalized learning, I had a lot of students, or a few students, I shouldn't say a lot of students. I had a few students that were constantly behind pace. And it was really frustrating, right? Like we get really frustrated by all of those different activities. Here it is. Okay, so this is extra support for students that might need it. So not every student got this in my classroom, but just a couple students. So this is now my next step because I found it this summer. So this school year, I would like to use this in the classroom with some teachers that might have some students that are behind pace. And what happens is every single date is written here. It's going to be front to back. So I would probably print this. And then on the back, Tuesday, Thursday. I mean, you could do this completely digital as well. Totally up to you. And what happens is on time, students have to arrive on time. You might have it, and you can customize this template for your individual students to kind of pick what do they need for their goal. And not every student might need the on-time column. You could totally erase that column. But for example, let's say I had a student who was constantly late. So now they've got 2 goals where I had like a do now activity. This is from Modern Classrooms. It was just kind of like an entrance goal setting ticket. And based on that, the student didn't complete it ever. So now he has 2 goals to complete it. And if this might be me, I might add each column 1 week at a time. So that way the student can kind of get successful first, and then the second column, and then the third. So that could be one way that you do it rather than just bringing this all out at once. Work completion right here. I want the student to finish what they have been maybe working on, and I want them to be able to finish that video within 25 minutes. The video is about 7 minutes long, but this student is taking about 25 minutes to complete this video. So what I want them to, or 30 minutes. So what they're going to do is they're going to have a time limit now, and they're going to be expected to try to get that done. And then the next thing is they're going to need to maybe complete their notes and the practice that are after that video. And again, this is using that Modern Classrooms project. And this is kind of how they set up their lessons is video, you practice, and then you do a mastery check. And with the video, there's usually notes or embedded questions. And then right here, they've completed the submission and maybe they need checked. So that might be some of the goals for that student, and then behavior goals. So maybe their phone is constantly out, like reminding them that they need to keep their phone away. They're focused on their work. They can take a break, but it has to be shorter than so many minutes. And then the last one is like maybe they need help. So they need to work on asking for help. If they do those goals or meet however many you want to say, they get a signature. And at the end of this, they might get some type of reward. Again, I might start off with just one column of just being on time. That's the one thing I want you to focus on this week. And then the following week, once they master the on time, I might add a work completion. Once they do that, I might add the third and then the fourth. So I might slowly introduce this to my students. But this is my after result. So I'm going to go ahead and share this with the group. And then in here on the make and take, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this one. I had my image that I'm going to add onto here. And then I'm just going to hyperlink it. Okay, so there we go. That's just kind of what I did. And then I'm going to call this extra support. Okay, and again, I'm going to reward those students as they maybe meet some of those different goals. Okay, now the before, I don't really have a strategy in place. So I'm just going to go to flat icon. And I am going to kind of do like a yelling icon because I feel like I just kind of yelled at these students. I like this one. And I wasn't much help, and the yelling didn't help either. So there we go. Or nagging them. I guess it shouldn't be yelling. It should be like nagging students. So again, that was my before and after. So before I would get really frustrated. I didn't have a plan in place, but now I have something that I'm going to try to implement next year with this individual goal tracker. And again, I might introduce as the different levels come up. So you're going to duplicate slide number 3. Don't forget to add your name here in the speaker notes. Please add your Twitter handle as well. And then we can kind of collaborate with each other and see what we're thinking. What was maybe something before that you did that was like lower level that you would like to maybe improve for next school year. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for joining me on today's webinar. And if you want more, make sure you follow me on Twitter. Please reach out and connect if you have questions. Also, I have a podcast, Control the Chaos. So you can check out that podcast every week. We send out an episode on Wednesday. And then you can also join the Google group with Gold EDU. And then coming soon is a book. I'm writing a book, so Control the Chaos. And it's going to be focused on some of these executive functioning skills in blended learning. So again, join the conversation, join the resources. It was great to connect with you guys today. And I really enjoyed getting to know you and cannot wait to see that make and take slide deck. And again, reach out if you have any questions at all.